Hello and welcome to a new Blitz video. 3 minutes with no increment with the black pieces, and we'll go with pawn to c4, e6, knight c3, d5, and okay, we're back to Queen's Gambit declined, bishop g5, h6, asking a question to the bishop, short castle, okay, I'll go with b6, this is a decent setup, I'll take with the knight. I think this is the most precise moment to capture, because now that I have played b6, I'm sort of weakening the light squares around here. And if I put the bishop on b7, it is attacking on a blocked diagonal, so e6 is now the best square for it. I will go with pawn to c5, hinting at some c4 ideas. Trying to get that queenside majority going. Pawn takes. I'll go with bishop to e6. I guess that's the most sensible square for it. Knight to d7. And I have this structure. I have to make sure that nothing strange happens on this diagonal, but I always have knight to f6 at my disposal. Rook f to d8. On queen here, I will have knight to f6. No, I won't. I will play g6. I should have played rook a c8 as I was intending at first, because now I couldn't play knight f6 on account of queen c5. That was not very smart of me. One thing that was also not very smart is that I could have considered bishop f5. Okay, maybe knight to b6. Queen f6, threatening some bishop h3 stuff. Not really sure a3 is doing all that much in the position. I can play bishop takes h3, right? If queen c3, I can capture. And bishop g4. On rook c1, what? Okay. I think this would have been an interesting position still after rook here, bishop takes. I would have had to go c4, but he can undermine my structure with e4 at the right time. Not immediately because d4. But okay, let's have a little look. Queen's Gambit declined. I think it was sort of okay up to some point. Okay, first of all, I break the pin with bishop e7, then I ask the bishop a question. Do you want to trade on f6, which is a variation that was played in the 80s, I believe. There were some games. What was it? Partish, I think, with white against someone. Bishop h4, short castle, and here knight to e4 is a variation that has been around for quite a while, which leads to massive simplifications of the position. But b6 has the objective of keeping some life in the position with more pieces on the board. C takes, yeah, here against something like bishop to d3, I have enough time to put my bishop there, and then I can try to take on c4 at some point and get my bishop on this lovely diagonal. He took on d5 immediately after knight takes. Now I don't want to take with the pawn, because then I don't really know what to do with this bishop. So first I traded some pieces. Knight here, pawn takes d5, bishop takes e7, queen takes. Yeah, rook c1 is the most precise, I think, because then I cannot play c5 right away, I believe. But okay, he played bishop d3, which is completely fine. I started with c5. By the way, the reason why rook c1 is more precise is that after c5 he can take on c5, and there's this pawn hanging. Bishop d3, c5 he took, and we get this structure with those pawns right here. Short castle, bishop e6. Important to put the bishop on e6 before developing the knight to d7, and then I have the f6 square available to defend my king. Need to charge the laptop. Bishop to b1. Here I think I should have played this. And we would have transposed to a game from 2018. Okay, the computer prefers rook fc8. Yeah, in any case I have to protect this one, so that on the battery, bishop on b1 and queen on c2, I can defend with knight to f6 without losing the pawn on c5. In the game I played rook fd8, but then after queen c2 I can no longer play knight to f6 because queen takes c5 loses a pawn. Fortunately for me, g6 is good enough. And here he played h3. I was thinking maybe he could play something a bit more aggressive. In the game he played a3, maybe he could have tried this and sacrificed a pawn on b4 to get the d4 square. This is a theme that you can find sometimes, or even maybe h4, h5 to try to force this pawn to move and get access to the h7 square and my king. Instead, he played h3, which is completely okay. Rook a to c8. I have developed all of my pieces. Rook fd1, knight to b6. Yeah, here I started with knight to b6 because on queen f6, which is the move that I played just after, I wanted to have that pawn on d5 protected, because on bishop takes here, it might have been possible for my opponent to capture on d5 as an intermediate move. Knight to b6, a3, now queen f6, and he has to pay attention to this threat of bishop takes h3, because after pawn takes I can then take revenge for my lost bishop and win the knight on f3. Bishop to a2, I captured. What should he play instead? Queen to e2, yes, queen to e2, so that on bishop takes, pawn takes, the knight is protected. And here I should have played something like what? This bishop on b1 is pretty good, but I don't think I should necessarily try to trade it off, because my bishop is also quite useful in defending the pawn on d5, which could be a bit vulnerable at times. Okay, the computer likes knight to a4 for some reason. I'm attacking this pawn, which I would like to force an advance of. If the pawn advances, I have this fork potentially, even though that's a bit trickier than that. Queen b2, if I take the rook, queen f6, but okay, that's a different game. He played bishop a2, after which this runs into some tactics. Yeah, here I was thinking this maybe bishop takes. Here I'm definitely better, but how much better? Now that I have the position in front of me, it kind of looks unrealistic for white to even in the long run be able to push e4 without allowing a dangerous pass pawn to exist. And yeah, he played knight to e5 unfortunately, which ended the game right away. And Queen's Gambit declined. That's my birth year. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.